Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today card 2 in my Fly High stamp set series featuring Lawn Fawn's stamp set Fly High. I'm in love with this stamp set. It's so pretty and all the rainbow colors. I decided I needed to make a super huge balloon because I wanted my big critters to fit in the basket. So I brought in the Build-A-Barrel apple. And I figured I could use that as my basket. And I was just trying to figure out what to use for my balloon, because I needed that piece that comes down on there. The magic iris probably will work. I might have to go back and do that because I think it would be fun to make it an interactive, with the balloon opening up to a sentiment on the inside possibly. But I ended up bringing in the base to the other little, I guess, snow globe. I'm pretty sure it's from it's like the winter snow globe add-on piece. So that's what I used for my little, I guess, the balloon spout. I don't remember what the proper terms are. You'll have to forgive me. And of course, I wanted some beautiful, bold rainbow prints. So I was toying between that perfect plaid paper pack and then, of course, that rainbow pack. And so I ended up going with the rainbow pack, going with that diagonal stripe in rainbow style. Of course, I ended up doing it a little not diagonal, but that is the joy of die cuts. So I am using Lawn Fawn's Wild For You stamp set, bringing in the two little elephants for there. I did have the other one. I didn't know if I wanted to bring him in or not. He would have worked too. He is from the new Elephant Parade add-on stamp set. But I did end up just using the two elephants from the Wild For You stamp set. And then, of course, the one that comes with the Fly High stamp set in the little balloon, or the smaller balloon that's in the background. So I have all of my die cut pieces die cut out, and I'm just going to add some, I'm going to cut off the curved piece on that snow globe piece there so it looks straight. And I just eyeballed it. I can't tell you if it's actually straight. It looks straight for the most part. I'm coming in with some Distress ink and walnut stain for my wood grain basket here. And then I'm going to bring in some black soot for a little bit of shading on the edging of my metal for my basket. And then I'm bringing in some close to my heart gypsy purple and adding some color to those. Now I'm also using the puffy cloud backdrop, and I'm going to show you how I get a little more use out of this one than an A2, because my card is going to be way bigger than an A2. I did end up going with a 5x7 for this one. I had debated doing either slimline or 5x7, but I decided I wanted it a little bit wider because I went with the bigger balloon. So I'm just bringing in a scratch piece of paper here so I can put that in between my cloud layers so I can add some color onto the bottom. Now, one I did in sky blue from Close to My Heart, and then this one I'm bringing back in that gypsy purple and adding some purple to this one. So as I finish all of these up here, and then I didn't actually have enough. I did have to go back and cut another partial panel because it wasn't quite enough for my A7. I think that's what it's called, my A7 panel. And if I do a slimline, I would have needed 3, I think. Don't quote me on that one. I think that's what I used the last time I did a slimline. But a mini slim, you could get away with 2. And if you have the taller one, you could get away with 2 for a mini, or for a slimline. You couldn't do it in a 5x7. So I'm just putting all of my die cut pieces together here. And then I will work on my backdrop. So I just took a scrap piece of 5x7 paper. And then I realize I'm going to need more real estate for that one. So I'm doing that top piece on that one because I know I'm going to need another piece. So I just cut these apart here, and I'm just measuring on my piece of paper here because this was a half sheet of cardstock, or was it cardstock? It might have just been regular printer paper. And then I'm just going to build up my layers here. So I'm just going every other with my color scheme, being that I have two, so I can just go back and forth between the two. And so I get that extra color variation in between the clouds there, you know, piecing it together like a puzzle. And then when I get to this top layer here, as you could tell, I just put glue on the bottom so that way I could tuck pieces in behind the clouds if I needed them. I ended up removing that one, going back to my lower piece here, and I'm not worried about this one tucking in like all the way because my images are going to cover up a big portion of the background. So I wasn't overly concerned with it working, you know, out perfectly. And then just piecing together here to get that finished piece. And that's where I realized I needed a little bit more real estate. So I'm just going to add in that top layer, and I did glue down the top layer well because it's going to get cut apart. And so once I had that complete, I'm going to come in with some Brutus Monroe Aqua Pigments in Frost. So violet frost and blue frost. The frost, the color in that one, the blue and the violet, just is the color of the frost, or the, so when it's iridescent and when you know, move it in the light, it has a purple sheen or a blue sheen. I also have red and yellow and a couple of other ones because they're pretty. I could have also used, I don't think the Tim Holtz mica spray stains are in white, but I could have used like the lighter blue one or a purple one if I wanted to. But I love the fact that these are white, and so they really don't add color splatter or spatter or speckly flecklies, but just, you know, it has the sparkle to it, but it is still clear. So I'm coming in with my Ohuhu markers. I use the bullet nibs. If you are interested in my color blends, I have a separate page on my blog, InkyandScrappy.com, that has all of my color blends that I have done already. I guess the ones that I've done in the past, they're already on there. So if you are interested in those, they're easier to find on that Ohuhu marker blend page. All of them are there. You can scroll. I am working on redoing my list. So I actually had a list, like I took all 320 of my new bullet nibs and I color matched them to my old bullet nibs, which were the old color system of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so the name matches with the color for the most part, as far as I've been telling, or as far as I can tell thus far. But I lost it all when I switched. My old computer was, yeah, can we say it, bit the dust in ways that I was not too impressed. And so last week was not a good week because I was like, oh, I'm just going to upload that file onto my blog and then everyone can have, you know, my color chart variegation and I don't have to redo all of my color charts because some of them are in the old system and not the new system, and yeah, it didn't go as planned. So I'm working on that. I think I'm on page 3 of 6. I also have added in my brush nibs that go with that one, and I think I have the pastel brush color numbers, so anything that matched, anything that I could name match color wise, I have done that for you. And then on my new one, I'm trying to add in some of those 320s if they name match. They don't all name match. I don't understand why they do that with Ohuhus, but if I ever upgrade to the brush nib on the 320s, I can hopefully color match them all for you sometime, but it's not happening anytime soon because I have no rhyme or reason to add more markers to my extensive alcohol marker stash. So I'm just going in darkest to lightest like I always color here. So there they all are. Kind of variegating my color. I don't want all of my balloons to look the same. And after the fact, I was like, oh, it would have been really cute to add maybe some patterns to some of those balloon sections. I think it's going to have to happen in one of these cards. I mean, my next card's already done, but I haven't finished the 4th card for this series yet, so it might end up happening. Doing like little hearts, and I'd have to block off. So it'll require a little bit of stamp masking or masking and stamping, so some fussy cutting. It's all good. So I'm just taking my built background here, cutting a straight line on the bottom so I can do a 5x7, cutting off all of the excess overhang. And because this one is my smaller cutter and not my big cutter, it annoys me, but it doesn't have the full 8.5-inch ruler, so I had to do that subtraction method there. It worked out okay. And so for my little elephant, or my big elephant here, I thought it would be cute for his trunk or her trunk to hang over the basket edge. And then of course, I'm annoyed by the little white that hangs over because the rest of it didn't have white. And then I'm going to do the same with that little elephant because his little trunk I thought would look cute too. And then I decided I needed to go in and actually cut a little bit more and then around the curly part of his trunk. So I'm going to glue in Mama or Papa Elephant here, and then Baby Elephant. Oh, the baby elephant's so cute. And so then I'm going to squeak that one in there, fiddle with it a little bit, and then glue that one in there. Glue his little trunk down. And I did think about bringing in that little pinwheel from the Elephant Parade add-on because it's adorable. But I decided against it because it was going to cover up too much of his face. And then, of course, I needed strings on my balloon. I could have, glued everything down and then hand-drawn in some strings, but I thought it would be fun to add some actual string. So I'm bringing in some black hemp twine string. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's more of a thick string or thick thread. I don't know. Kind of like embossing or embroidery thread, thickness-wise. Embroidery thread would work too. So I'm just adding those on with some score tape, and then I'm going to add score tape onto the back of my basket here. And then I will lay those out kind of like the bigger balloon or the smaller balloons. So you see the strings are both kind of off to the side. And aligning them up so they're fairly straight. I want to have a little bit of tension there when I actually glue this down onto the card so they stay straight. Because obviously the elephants probably weigh a lot in their basket. That's why they have the metal reinforcement. So I'm just going to add some foam tape here to make sure that those pieces stay down. And then I will add a bigger chunk of foam onto the top for my balloon here. And then I'm just going to work on placement. And of course, if I wouldn't have had that little gap there, I probably could have gone down a little bit more with my balloon, but I was okay with where it ended up placement-wise. So I'm just trying to figure out where the best placement is going to be. And of course, that little elephant needs to be in the balloon that's further back. It just helps with showing some of the depth and dimension, or it adds more dimension, I guess, to my scene. So you have the big elephants in the balloon that is in the forefront, and then the smaller elephant in the balloon that's to the back, and then that one that's way back there, you can't see the little critter in there, but you can see the balloon. So I'm going to lay this down, setting the elephants first and then pulling up a little bit so those strings are tight. And then I will add in my other balloons here, kind of tucking the balloon behind the cloud a little bit, giving it that look that it's further back in the scene, as well as that other one, and letting them hang off just a teeny tiny bit. So it gives that illusion that the scene continues onward off the edge of the card. I'll zoom out here a little bit. I was in a little bit closer than I had, I don't always pay attention to those things. Sorry. I'm going to add a little foam behind the elephants so they stay popped up a little bit more. And then I'll turn it over, trim off all of my overhang. And then to figure out a sentiment, because I never do that beforehand. But I also decided that that big balloon needed a little something something. So I decided to pull in the new fishtail banner borders. And I love that swoopy one. I don't know. What do you call that one? Yeah, it's a swoopy one. This sagging one? I don't know. And I was trying to figure out what word I could put on those little things. I could have just left them as, little flags, but I decided that it'd be cute to add a sentiment to them. And so I also brought in the Furever Friends, which was the free with 60 purchase on the new release. And so I couldn't decide for sure what I wanted for my sentiment on the front. So when I can't decide, I usually do more than one, because that way I can decide which one looks better, which one I like more. So I stamp both of those out onto that coordinating cardstock that goes with the balloon. And then I'm going to set those ones off to the side for a little bit as I work on my little flags that need to go on top of my banner. So I decided to bring in the same colors that I colored the other balloon with here. Just going over these super fast to add a little bit of two-tone color, so darker to the top, lighter to the bottom, and then going every other for the most part, repeating the purple on the two ends. And then I will line those up, and then I knew that my new Henry's ABCs wasn't going to be small enough for these. It might have, but I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. So I'm just going in. I found all the letters that I needed in the one sentiment, and so I just went in and kind of masked or fussy stamped or fussy inked, I guess, and then used that stamp chamois to clean off the letters around it. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough for me that I didn't mind the little. I think the S's might have a little bit of a overstamp on the one, but it's not that big of a deal. So I have all of my letters all stamped on my banner die there, and then I am going to go in and stamp that little flying bird stamp from the Furever Friends just in the background to give it a little bit more interest. It's super light, so you can't really see it a whole lot. They don't stand out. I didn't want them to be in your face, stand out. I just kind of wanted to add a little bit of interest to that sky back there. And I'm going to add in my letters here. So the Miss U is in the banner. And then to make sure, because I already had my balloon on there. So to cut it out, I just kind of pressed down on the die cut that I had used. And so it gave me the exact spot where I needed to cut it, and then I just matched it up to the curve on the balloon. And then to add this to my card base, I peeled up the 2 corners, added some glue, and then promptly stuck it down crooked. Yeah. It was lined up on top, and I don't know. I was rushing it because I had to go do something, and yeah. And then I came back and I was like, oh, I kind of was off. And so I thought about pulling it up, but it obviously wasn't going to pull up. I could have cut the front off and realigned it, but I decided just to go with it. It's not that horrible bad. So sometimes we just need to walk away and say it's okay. So then for the inside, for the outside, I did the together is my favorite place to be. And then I did add the other one that I cut out onto the inside that says I'm here to lift you up. And I have that extra balloon, so I'm going to add that one onto the inside. It pulls the front of the card into the inside of the card, bringing the balloons in. So I had so much fun creating a super large balloon for this one. I hope you give it a try and add some critters. I have some other ideas for this one too, because, you know, there's lots of critters that would fit in there and look cute. So I hope you have an amazing day. Keep getting inky. Bye!